I always liked those kind of like old school horror movie soundtracks. What about something I bring up a lot when horror movies come up is the Italian Demoni or Demons and the sequel, which I love equally. Are you familiar with those?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm hugely into European horror and Italian horror.
So, I mean, me personally, I had it easy. I had an uncle who was a horror movie nut, and he was getting into Laserdisc right around the time I was getting into horror movies, so he would dump a lot of his old VHS on me and allegedly bootleg Laserdiscs onto VHS for me. And that's where I saw Demons and, all the Lucio Fulci movies, blah, 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 blah. I could go on. Like, how were you able to access some of those more cult horror movies?
Oh, man, you're bringing back so many warm memories for me.
Yes.
Smitty's video department, it was one of those grocery store video departments. And there was one cool guy that worked there named Darren, who he ordered all sorts of crazy shit to the point where he would have bootleg VHSs, probably like your uncle made, dumped off of laser discs on the shelves. And I was like, what is going on here?
Hell yeah.
And I was reading Fangoria, Gore Zone, and all this shit, and I'd go there. It's like, oh my God, this is that movie, Zombie. And so I saw Zombie the first time it was, the widescreen, but it wasn't pan and scan. It was just cut right down the middle. So you're seeing half of people's faces, half of the gore, it was just horrible, horrible quality. So yeah, that was where I started, was at Smitty's, but soon enough there was stuff he couldn't carry, like a lot of Fulci stuff at at Smitty's. And so I got this catalog that I ordered from the back of Gore Zone, I think, and it was some video bootleg catalog dude. I can't remember. I used like out of Florida or something. Yeah. And I ordered a bunch of bootlegs from that guy over the years, and it was expensive as fuck. It's like each VHS was like $40, but it would be like Japanese laser discs of the Beyond, or early Giallo movies, Argento stuff, the nasty stuff, some of the Japanese, like guinea pig movies and stuff like that. I'd order a bunch of that through VHS, and you'd send the money off in just like 6 months. 6 months before anything shows up. You're like, oh, that money's gone. And then all of a sudden a big box shows up full of bootlegs. That was the most exciting thing ever.
Those self-addressed stamped envelope ads in the back of Gore Zone. And by the way, Fangoria was hot, but if you read Gore Zone, you were real back in the day.
Shit, I even read Toxic Horror. No one even remembers Toxic Horror. But hey, I might have been ordering those from your uncle, for all I know.
Well, he actually ran Something Weird Video.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Yeah. Well, you would probably be familiar with Frank Henenlotter. He directed Basket Case.
That's your uncle?
Frankenhooker. Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me! Bro.
Will is the first I'm hearing about it. It's crazy. What are you doing?
You're like 5 beers in. Yeah. I've gotten in front of this before, dude.
All right. Well, we'll talk or something later.
But
the show.
Yeah, actually, the two cops at the end of Brain Damage are real cops. Yeah, I won't get into it, but regardless, but yeah, that's who was sending me the videos, and he was doing Something Weird Video, which was re-releasing a lot of like the most obscure B horror movie, and they were actually like getting into like compilations of like old driver safety gore videos that they would play for kids in high school in the 60s and shit, like like dental school videos, like weird shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah. I watched a shitload of Something Weird Real Wild Cinema, hosted by Sandra Bernhardt.
Yeah,
I think it was like on USA Network. It was great.
Yeah,
it was like a clip show for Something Weird releases in it.
Yeah, my
watched
uncle,
it religiously.
I talked to him just a few months ago. He's always up to something, man, and he still is, man. He's my biggest inspiration. But like I try to apply it to death metal and underground music, man. Just like the way he never stopped his whole life and he just lived his whole life for his passion for crazy fucking movies. But
I just watched his recent movie Bad Biology not that long ago, and it is crazy. He's still going.
I hope you've recovered from the experience. That's a pretty wild one. But yeah, man. That we were talking about those ads, and also like this is I'm sorry, but this is why life was cooler before the internet. I mean, if you want to talk about something crazy, those legends in the 80s and 90s, it was like these legends of like snuff videos.
Charlie Sheen got the guinea pig guy's in trouble because he saw a guinea pig bootleg movie at a party and he thought it was a real snuff movie and he reported them to the FBI and shit.
Wow.
They had to do a making of to show that no, this girl's alive. We're just really good at effects and sadistic in our imaginations.
Yeah, guinea pig. Yeah.
It's still hard to watch those first couple of.
I don't know if I ever made it through a whole viewing. Do you still keep up with modern horror, or are you like me, admittedly, someone who's a little stuck in nostalgia?
No, I keep up with everything. It's like, to me, my life is horror. That's all I focus. Right now, as we're recording this, I'm watching old episodes of Dark Shadows here on the side.
This guy.
I go way back, and then I keep up with everything. Like I really liked Hereditary. I thought that was very
that was a
interesting.
good one.
That's one of the most recent ones I've seen.
Okay.
Do you have Shudder?
Yes.
Okay. I've been big on Shudder recently.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
It's been good to me. Good to my dreams.
I canceled my Netflix and just went straight Shudder.
I haven't actually. I should do that because I haven't opened Netflix in like 3 months. And
They don't have enough horror movies.
They don't have any horror movies, actually.
The business model for me is go to the thrift store, buy a VCR.
Throw your TV out.
Preferably a VCR DVD
slide
combo
projector.
player. And then
Proud Luddite.
Yeah, dude. Well, let me hit you with a kind of obscure one. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. I recently watched it. This is why I want to ask, and I found it really good. It's like a 2-part made-for-TV film from Denmark, I believe, Danish TV, The Kingdom, about the haunted hospital.
Oh, that's an entire season of a show. There's like several seasons of that.
I have it in a double VHS. I guess maybe it's like kind of compartmentalized for the VHS release. But you're familiar with that?
Oh yeah. Have you seen season 2?
Well, I have 2 VHS. It's like I said, I have 2 VHS copies that's kind of edited into like these 2 mini movies.
They pulled a Salem's Lot,
like
where they
formats
put it all together.
Like, I don't know that scenes are missing, but I don't get it in the format of several episodes. The ending of it, I don't want to spoil it for the fans, but the ending of it ends when the baby is born.
That's what I was going to bring up. I wanted to know if you'd seen the baby part. Yeah, the baby's amazing.
That was I felt like the whole thing was a crazy build-up to that, like, orgasm of insanity.
Life is beautiful.
Yes, they tried to remake that in America with Stephen King at the head of it. And just was not, they did not, it was not as crazy or as weird. It did not work out at all. I think they just called it Kingdom Hospital or something.
I read that they did that. I'm not interested to see it. I mean, how could you?
It's no good.
And the original, I thought it was so great, man. Those the two workers, the 2 disabled kids that work in the kitchen, and I don't want to spoil anything for the listeners, but just such a really creepy, well written show. Great characters, man. Worth a watch if you can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think that's that hard to find, but these days. But that is a very odd, like almost David Lynch kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, man. Well, what else? What are, I always talk about Demons because it has such a special place in my heart, man. Maybe give us like your top 3, like soul food, feel good horror movies that you just can always go back to.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is Fright Night. Because to me, that one combines so much shit that I love. Because I also love horror hosts, like Zachary and Elvira. And the fact that they incorporated modern 80s vampires that were also disgusting and monstrous and vile, and then combine it with a horror host attacking them in a rear window scenario. That one. Since I was a kid, I loved that movie. That just nailed just everything I loved about horror. So I go back to that one a lot. Let me see what
that one's it is like truly a 10. Like
See, a lot of people disagree though. They think it's too cheesy or too this or too that. That's exactly the 80s music in it I love so much.
But they nail like the comedy aspect and the disturbing aspect. It's super well balanced. Now, if you don't like that comedy in your horror, then then it's not for you. Like, you shouldn't be rating this.
Yeah, because like Evil Ed is hilarious, but he is also pretty fucking terrifying.
Yeah, he's
by
horrifying.
the end of the
I never
movie.
want to meet that character.
Yeah, the
It's-
laugh. Oh.
It's very much in line with that genre of 80s horror. You know, it's perfect for that, man, you know?
Well, yeah, a lot of people worship The Lost Boys. I'm full on Fright Night.
Yeah, it's a much better movie.
I'm a fan of both. I do feel that the adoration and the appreciation is a little uneven. Obviously Lost Boys has become like this, and I'm not going to say that it doesn't deserve any of the credit it gets, but I would like to see Fright Night elevated.
Yeah. Well, Fright Night's a horror movie. Lost Boys isn't really a horror movie. That's the comedy. Fright Night actually has serious scary parts in it. See, in terms of comfort, though, like, what do I go back for comfort? I find myself, I rewatch Argento's Inferno a lot, even though I have a lot of problems with it. For some reason, I come back to that movie a lot.
Yeah.
There's something I also don't really like the score. That's the one he did without Goblin. Had Keith Emerson did the score to that one, and that it feels a little weird. It's like a kind of a different style of music in that one. I'm kind of obsessed with that old building that it takes place in, and all the different nooks and crannies and shit, and that, like, the part where the girl's in the library and she stumbles into the basement, and all of a sudden she's in a medieval dungeon, and there's some big creepy guy in there boiling fat and doing all sorts of alchemical shit, and it's just out of nowhere. It's very artsy and long and boring, and I rewatch that a lot, like way more than any Argento movie that I like more than Inferno. So that's kind of weird.
And the Crypticus Bandcamp page, not only can you find many releases by Crypticus, you could also hear movie scores. Old school creepy synthesizer movie scores that Pat was talking about. And there you have it. I believe we covered all the ground. Pat Bruss of Crypticus, thank you so much for your time this evening. Any closing words for fans and listeners of your work and followers of our podcast?
I would just like to say that I allegedly am a huge fan of this podcast, and it was a huge honor to be on here.
Thank you, Pat, man. We'll be in touch with you, brother.
You guys take care.
Hey, you too.
Thanks a lot, brother.